Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. My name is Emma, and I've got Pascal with me, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how we can start to use technology to offset the talent gap that we see within the insurance industry. But before I get to all the questions that I've got for you, can you do an introduction for everybody?
Sure. So my name is Pascal Begin. I'm going to be like 30 years in the industry next year, 2024. So first I was selling equipment and chemicals for a restoration company, and then moved and built started my first software company in 96. And been doing that since. We founded, me and my two friends, Simility Solutions in 2002, and been now part of CoreLogic with the acquisition in 2018. So my role initially was like jack of all trade, wearing many hats, but now I'm a VP of product, overseeing our claims solution here.
Well, I'm excited to get to kind of pull from all of that experience. I'm always so interested to hear how long people have been in the industry. I've been working for longer than that, but I've only been in insurance for a couple of years. So my like introduction sounds sad in comparison, but I'm excited. This is why I like this show. I get to tap into this experience from everybody else. So I may have already kind of given some of this away in my introduction, but while we were prepping for this, we were talking about like some of the biggest challenges that you see carriers coming up against today. And I want to dig into that a little bit more as kind of the lay of the land for the conversation. So can you share a little bit about what you're hearing when you're talking with your carrier partners?
So yeah, I see a lot of challenges in the industry today. And the ones that that are the most challenges for carriers are these three. The first one is commoditization of the insurance. So now we can shop for insurance, and it puts a lot of pressure on the carriers to be able to compete against the others. And now they can only compete on price. So how can you be successful as an organization when you compete on price? The second one is the consumer expectation. We all use technology today for all sort of transaction, and the expectation from the policyholders is to also use that technology in their claim. And the third one, to me, is probably the largest one, is the shortage of experienced adjusters and experienced claims professionals in general. It's something, it's not new. Like I remember doing a presentation back in 2018, 19, and that was something big. Like it said in early 2020s, there's going to be like 25% of the experienced adjuster that we're going to leave. I saw an article not later than last week where it says like 400,000 claim professionals were going to leave the industry. So it's a huge gap that the carriers needs to fill. And to me, that is probably the biggest issue and the biggest challenge that carriers have today.
So with this talent gap and all of these people leaving the industry, one of the major things that I have heard conversations about, and you and I talked a little bit about coming into this conversation, is the idea of some of that like institutional knowledge leaving, but then how do we start to use technology to make sure that we're directing things and having claims go to the right people so that we're not further frustrating our policyholders? So can you talk a little bit about how we can start to at least segment claims in the right direction to help with that frustration?
Yeah, I think we need to, as you said, as the experience is leaving the companies, we need to make sure we optimize the people that we've left. So we don't want to send our like super experienced adjusters like in the field, and they can spend up to 50% of their time just driving from one claim to the other. So we need to make use of that technology in order to make sure that we can assign the right claim to the right person. And maybe that person, with the technology that is available today, we can maybe have that experienced adjuster stay at the desk where they can work on more claims on their daily task, instead of like sending them in the field. And technology, it could start at once the claim is created, but now we have technology available where it can really start at the creation of the claim. So what we're seeing, and what I hope to see, is self-service solution where policyholder will be able to create their claims and have a triage done right at the start. So maybe like the experience adjuster is not even needed from the start. Maybe it's a small enough claim that at the claim creation, self-service can be used to just go straight through processing and complete that claim. But when it becomes more complicated, then technology can be used to make sure that we assign the right resource on the spot. So if it's a very complex claim, then this is when I'm going to send my experience adjuster. And if it's a smaller claim, less complex, then I would send my newer adjuster on site.
So what kinds of barriers do you still see? So we've got technology, it's helping it improve. We're able to use updated tools and our effort towards recruiting younger people to get them into the industry. But where do you think we're still going to have challenges when it comes to this talent gap? And do you have any suggestions of maybe how we start to move beyond them?
Yeah, so for sure that the technology helps recruiting younger generation. If we go back 10 years ago, the industry was so old, didn't leverage much the technology, so it wasn't really appealing for younger generation to join the industry. I don't think no one dreamed to say I want to be working as an adjuster when I grow up. Well, I didn't, and I didn't expect to work in the insurance industry anyway. But it's super exciting to see what's happening now. Both of us were at ITC a month ago to see how many people, how many InsurTech available. That's great, and I think that's going to really help, as you said, attracting younger generation. Now, we need to make sure that we leverage that technology the right way. So what's happening now is with the older generation leaving the industry, it leaves a huge gap in the knowledge. And my hope and what I want to do as a product leader is to provide technology that's going to help fill that gap of knowledge. So younger generation, when they go on site, they can start using the technology that's going to guide them into making sure that they're making the right calls when building their estimates and when capturing all the data that is required to settle that claim. So using that technology, it's almost having the experience adjusters in your hands. So when you're done building and capturing all the information about the loss, you're sure you don't need to go back a second time, and you're sure that what you are going to create is a consistent, accurate estimate all the time.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for the conversation and kind of talking through how we can start to use technology to adjust some of these things. Obviously, we don't have it down to a perfect science yet, but we're making progress and we're getting there, which is always an encouraging thing. Thank you to everybody who watched. If you're not already, make sure that you connect with Pascal and keep up to date with what they're doing over at CoreLogic. And be sure to reach out to either one of us if you've got any questions. But thank you again for joining me, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Leading Change. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe and come back weekly for more expert interviews on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.